Hello, is Ed Gale there?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Dustin Wellness from KMSU Radio.
How you doing?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I had a half a inkling not to answer the phone. I thought, no, I can't do it 3 times.
Well, we got you now. I'm here with my co-host, Ton.
Hey, man, how you
Hi,
doing?
Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Oh, good. We get to talk over each other.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
That'll be fine. We'll just say over when we're done talking.
That's a good plan.
Anyway, so are we on now?
Yep. We'll just ask you a couple questions if you got time.
Oh, sure.
All right. Well, first of all, we wanted to know how you got started in acting.
I mean, it was something I always knew I wanted to do. I think I was about 8 years old when I saw The Wizard of Oz, and it had nothing to do with the Munchkins or any of that madness. It was the fact of Judy Garland. The character she played was Dorothy Gale, my last name. And I just said, out of, like an 8-year-old child would, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a race car driver. I said, you're going to see my name in the credits of a movie. And that was just sort of, that was that the catalyst.
Yeah.
And then I think, there's a lot of things every human being, including yourself, have said, as a young child. And without knowing it, maybe 8, 9, 20, 30 years later, you're like, oh my God, it came true, because you planted the seed. And I think that's what I did, because I didn't study acting. I didn't take drama classes or anything. I just said that's going to happen. I'm going to California. I'm going to become an actor. Obviously, no clue, but that's all it was. It was just a statement, and I had to make it come true.
Well, tell us a little bit how you landed the role in Howard the Duck.
How I made it happen.
Yeah.
I left. I'm from the Midwest and Michigan, and I left when I was 20 years old. I had $41 in my pocket. Don't recommend that. Obviously, almost 30 years ago, it was a different time. And I, came to California and told everybody, Hollywood, here I am. And of course, they said so. Nothing happened for about a year and a half, I think. And then Universal Studios put the word out that they were looking for little people, for an audition. And they had contacted, if you remember, the late Billy Barty.
Yeah.
From the Little People of America. They contacted him looking for specific sizes. We're looking for 3-foot-ish, this, that, and the other thing. And he gave them 4 or 5 names, and one of them was mine because we literally had met just like a month or so before that. Just coincidentally, we had met at a Christmas party. So, and he threw a bunch of names at him. And again, of course, one was mine. And I got a call to do an audition. I didn't know what the hell an audition was, but I, okay. Obviously, the first audition, they said no, I was too tall. I still have that letter, by the way. And audition and audition rejection. No, we're still looking for this. We're not quite looking for you. And obviously, then when it came right down to it, they offered me the understudy of the stunt double. And of course, being clueless, I'm like, okay. And if you ever see the DVD of Howard the Duck, behind the scenes, and listen to the producers and everybody talk, then you'll see how eventually the original didn't work out as well as they had hoped, and I eventually took over and then reshot that stuff and plus, shot all the new stuff. So.
Well, when you were on the set, was it difficult working in that suit for so long?
Yes and no. Yes, when I look back on it, of course, then it's your very first job ever. When it's your very first anything, that was my very first audition. I didn't know what an audition was. Same thing as like, you being on a radio station, let's say, and you doing what you did, your very, very first time you spoke into a microphone, you had nothing to compare it to.
Right.
So was it, was the director hard to work for? I don't know. What's the director like to work for? Was the script hard to do? What I don't know. What's the script do? You know what I'm saying? And so, physically, yes, I lost 11 pounds in 30 days, and it was very physically demanding because I'd have the costume on, 12, 14 plus hours a day. Yeah.
Wow.
And like I said, it was a different time back then. Now the unions are so strict. You get a 20-minute break every 19 minutes or whatever. The unions are very strong and heavy, and it wasn't like that back then. So, and plus, again, it's my very first job. I didn't complain. I didn't know who to complain to. So you didn't want to lose your job.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, and it wasn't work. How do you complain? Doing what you're doing, making 10 times more money than you've ever seen in your life. I was like, okay, I think this is okay.
Well, what was it like on the set as far as, like, do you have any funny stories or memories other than losing all that weight in the suit?
Yeah, almost dying and having a stroke. Yeah, other than that, no, it wasn't life threatening. But yeah, well, at first I felt, you had to understand. I'm on the set with, Leah Thompson, Jeffrey Jones, George Lucas. You know what I'm saying? Gloria, Katz, Lord Hike, etc. I'm on the set with these people. Like I don't belong there. I'm the newbie, and yet I'm playing the star character, and it's like it was hard to just wrap my head around the fact that I'm not a fan now. You know what I mean? I'm on the other side now. Funny stories. Oh my God, they go on and on and on. We went through 19 different heads from between me running into walls or people running into me, and breaking the costumes and things. The heads were like $50,000 each, and all remote control, all animatronic or whatever you call it. And I probably think my two funny stories of asking a man who I've never heard of, I've never seen before in my life because he's doing the soundtrack, and said, "You've ever done music before?" Of course, Thomas Dolby looks at me and said, "Yeah." Again, 20 years old. I'm from Michigan. Who the hell is Thomas Dolby? Didn't know. And then of course not being able to see out of the costume, I have no idea who's next to me and who's doing that and who's doing that. And yeah, I remember I was sleeping in the costume and somebody grabbed my foot and said, "Oh my God, it's cute." And I jump up and like, who the hell is that? Why are they touching me? I'm sleeping. Do they have a freaking clue? And it's Robin Williams. Yeah, a big old feet. They fit my. Oh yeah, I think I've insulted some of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Yeah, well, we've done that too. So.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, doesn't you feel like a schmuck? I'm like, okay, that was. And then they're like, one of the biggest ones was, show them how you dance and show them how you do the Howard, the duck dance. And I'm like, okay, tired, and I'm on a carpet or whatever, the duck feet don't work right. And I'm trying to do do the moonwalk and do the this and do the that. And I'm like, I can't do the moonwalk. I'm white. And I take the head off and say hi to Michael Jackson. Oh, God. Yeah, I learned not to talk too much in public anymore. Thank you. Even you're laughing. Thank you. That was a winner there.
So what did you think when the movie came out and everything? I mean, were you surprised that it's kind of cult success?
Oh, God, I think anyone who's ever done a movie that garnered cult, success, any of those types of movies, they didn't. I don't think you don't expect it. It's a George Lucas Universal film, a huge budget, huge production. Of course, it's going to be a big film. You just didn't. You never thought of ever. You never sit there and think on a movie going, okay, I'm sitting on a flop. No, you never did that. And again, my first movie. What is a premiere? What are the rating? I don't even know what all this is about. And so then of course all of the critics, destroyed the film, and it was humbling. It was kind of like, okay, I'm not George Clooney overnight. I'm not Tom Cruise. You know what I mean? I got to go back and see what do this again, see what we did wrong.
Yeah.
And, so I was like, I took it personally at first because they would say things like, it's just it's 7 midgets in a duck suit and the movie's not going to go anywhere, which I always laughed in a way because, George Lucas never did. I don't know if he does anymore. He never did show his movies to critics, what they call a pre-screen. So anytime that they slam a movie of his, it's funny because they've never seen it.
Wow, yeah.
And it's just speculation, They're just going on speculation. So I thought it was kind of funny, but then, the box office the reason there's never going to be a sequel, let's put it that way.
Well, not too long after that, you landed the role as Chucky in Child's Play. Is that right?
Yes, that one was very fortunate because once obviously there's a lot of people who worked on, let's say, Howard the Duck, who did get acclaims, such as let's say the music, Thomas Dolby, or maybe somebody who made the costume or painted something. Those kind of people don't care about the movie's success or failure. They're like, oh my God, you built a rocket for that movie, or you built a bus for that movie. It was a horrible movie, but it was a great shot because you're judged on what you do in this business. And because getting out there as being, Howard and Howard the Duck, I did a flying thing for Birdie in the McDonald's commercial. So when Chucky came along, they just said, they said, I want him. And that was, again, very humbling again to say, wow, they just pulled my name out of the, people in Hollywood know me. Wow.
Yeah, were you surprised that film went on to span so many sequels over the years?
Yes. Oh yeah, again, wow. Again, you just don't know. Friday the 13th. Who knew?
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger, whatever. Who knew? Then there's movies. You just see Howard the Duck, gone. There's no prediction. You just can't. You can't predict. How many, like television. Who knew this show lasts 12 seasons and this one lasted a half a season? If you really, really like it, it's going to get canceled. So.
Yeah.
So again, we had no idea that Chucky would take off and do that, and it's amazing. I hope they don't do any more unless he's in a nursing home, but I'm way too old and fat to do it now.
But you do a lot of your stunts, your own stunts, right?
Yes, I had a stunt double, actually several, on Howard the Duck, only because it wasn't possible to shoot. These and them. They started breaking it up. If you look on the credits for Howard the Duck, there's like 7, 8 names, and they explain it. Thank God, finally, in the DVD that there was only one, and it was me. But Debbie Carrington did some of my stunts, and I'm drawing a blank. I'll think of her name before this is over. Did my stunts in the flying, little airplane for Howard the Duck, because that's one I just no. They gave me a test ride, and I said no. I screamed like a girl. I was done. I was done with that one. Marguerite Fernandez, up in the Bay Area, she's the one that did those stunts for me. But mostly, I have to do my own stunts only because I'm dumb enough to do it, and it's hard to find a stunt double with my exact proportions, or even close, anyway.
Well, what are some of the craziest stunts that you've done? Like, have you ever been injured doing any of them?
Probably radio interviews. Oh, I'm sorry. I would say, being run over, and like in Howard the Duck, when I was run over by the 18-wheeler, the semi-truck, that was a straight, full-on run over. It wasn't one of those cut things where you kind of get the point cut and then show you show the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And then the middle is no. This was a straight run over. Full body burn with Chucky, of course, and Leprechaun 3. That was a full body burn on wires.
Wow.
I'd say hurt. Bumped and bruised around, but never hospitalized or anything. Stunts are made to look dangerous, not necessarily be dangerous. And if you have a great crew, and I've been very fortunate, if you see look at any of the credits of any movie I've ever done, look at the stunt crew, and they're all top notch. You can't work with half-assed people on that end of it.
Well, I suppose if you're going to be set on fire and run over by trucks, you kind of have to put your faith in those people.
I'm going through the windshield of a car at a high rate of speed. Yeah, we've all done, and I see a lot of things that a lot of little people, such as myself, we've done work that a lot of people don't even know we've done. Stunt doubling children. I was underneath what was I? Where you put your feet at in the passenger car, down on the floorboards. And all I did is flip a switch on and off to make it look like the car had a car alarm, because when they got the car, a brand new, I think it was a BMW, when they got it, it didn't have a car alarm. And they were like, oh crap, what do you do? And this guy just, obviously these are professionals and these are brilliant people. Hook a light up to the battery and put him in the floor and just flip the switch and make it look like the thing's going off. So, there's been a lot of times where I've been able to, you save the day and it makes you feel kind of cool,
Yeah.
So, little things we've done. Like I said, we were very utilitarian in the day.
Well, besides Child's Play and Howard the Duck, you've been in so many cult classics, like Spaceballs and Phantasm, and you mentioned Leprechaun. And are there any films besides Howard and Child's Play that you think you really are associated with as far as the fans go? Or
any real ones, you mean?
Well, no,
I think, I'm teasing. A lot of people, that weren't necessarily, cult classics or whatever. Unless, I don't know, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I had that one quick scene. I don't know if that's considered a cult classic, or it's that was a mainstream, I think. And, I had that one line, he ain't lying. And a lot of people remember me from that. Baywatch, I think, would be considered a cult classic now, but it wasn't then. It was viewed by over 1 billion viewers.
Yeah.
When it was in its high line. And, it's funny because it was the most talked about, laughed about, and made fun of, and most watched. So there you go.
Yeah, well.
Call it what you want. Call it what you want, baby. 1 billion viewers. No other show had that.
Definitely. And when we say cult classics, we definitely don't mean that in a negative way. A lot of those films.
No, but it's I know what you mean. A cult classic is just a small audience it'll live forever in infamy, so to speak.
Yeah, well, that's why we looked you up. We love a lot of these films, so this stuff lives on.
Yeah, yeah, it's ironic. I mean, I do rarely now. I've slowed down, but I've done autograph conventions, and it's surprising people remember some of the smallest roles I've done. No pun intended. Dialogue. They remember everything. And I'm like, wow. It's just really, it's cool. If they like somebody that much to look them up. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you're working on now or upcoming projects?
No, I slowed down. You never want to say the word retired because then they'll stop calling you, of course. But I'm slowing down. It's ironic that I told people I got in this business, in mid '85 when they really needed and used little people, and I'm getting out about the time that they're not.
Okay.
So it's kind of a mutual, what do you call it? A mutual, departure, so to speak.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't use little people that much in a utilitarian sense because everything's all computer generated now. In fact, the next Child's Play will be a remake of the Chucky 1, and it's going to be all CGI.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
So like I said, and then what was the one my friend Deep Roy did with Johnny Depp, the Willy Wonka thing, Charlie Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
One little guy, 30 characters, that kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of that. Even if you watch television, even like the Christmas commercials, which I made, a lot of Christmas commercials, made a fortune. And now I can't even buy a commercial because it's all computer generated. They take tall people and shrink them down, or they just make little cartoony elves, or whatever they do. So
lame.
That's like I said. I'm getting they don't use us much anymore, and I'm getting tired of working. It's kind of hopefully it'll be a nice mutual parting of the ways.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I've been very blessed. I think I have. I got in at the right time, and I'm slowing down at the right time.
Well, it's been great talking with you. Do you have any parting words for us before we let you go?
Parting words before I'm dead and gone. Yeah, well, back when we made movies, we used real duck feathers. I don't know. I don't want to sound like the old fashioned. If you believe you can do anything you want, as long as you believe. It's not true. I'm 10 feet tall. I'm not going to be a truck driver. I'm not going to be an astronaut. So it's not necessarily. You can be anything you want to be. You can be anything that you got to choose wisely. But my thing is, if you follow your heart, your dreams will follow you. And I know because mine did. And don't be a dreamer because you have to be asleep to be dreaming. Be a realist and go for it. If you want to be an actor, singer, dancer, whatever you want to be, do it. But get a degree in something, medical, computers, law, something. Have something to fall back. Have something to fall back on because I didn't. And once in a while, I'll get these little stress attacks, and I'll think, oh, my God, what if I didn't? What if I didn't make it? What would I have done?
Yeah.
I didn't plan. It was like, wow. I wasn't like Bill Gates. Bill Gates had all kinds of backup plans, But, you get a lot of actors. We don't have backup plans because we just go in this with delusions of grandeur. And there's like they say, Hollywood, it's filled with broken dreams,
Then you end up working in radio.
That's what I say. Those who can't.
There it is. Tony's talking to you.
And those who can't teach high school gym. I don't know the rest of the line. What was that? Anyway.
Awesome.
Anyway, so where are you guys located at?
We're in Minnesota.
Oh, that's right. I was talking because we'll be headed that way. Maybe we can stop in and say hi.
Yeah, you said you were heading to the mall, right?
Mall of America. Yeah, we're
Okay.
going to be totally tourists. My partner and I, he gets 6 weeks off, so hell of a paid vacation. So.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah.
Hello. We got to do it. He draws blood and works in the lab. Never mind. And no, we're going to drive across. I think first stop's going to be the mall, and we might go over the top of Michigan via Canada, drop down to Niagara Falls or whatever. And he wants to move to the East Coast. I'm like, bury me in Wyoming and keep going. I was like, ugh, I don't do cold, but we'll see.
Well, yeah.
So we'll keep in touch with the email. Maybe we can stop in the station and say, hey.
Sure, shoot us an email.
That'll be fun. Maybe when I get there, you guys will actually be there.
We'll be here for you.
Close on the door.
Exactly.
I was in Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town. You know what my price is?
Yeah, well, I own that movie, so there you go.
Well, you're lucky. You can't find it. They pulled it.
Yeah, it's out of print now, yeah.
Yeah, the producers pulled it. I know the producers. They won't even let me have it.
Wow.
Thank God I bought it on eBay. I would have never gotten it.
Wow.
I know the guys over at Troma. What's his name? Oh shoot, what's his name?
Lloyd Kaufman.
Thank you.
Yep.
Lloyd can't get me one.
Even he can't get you one.
Man,
Wow.
No.
it's rough.
No, I was sat in his office, and he looked at me like, dude. They locked it up, and they did something.
Dude,
Locked it up tighter than drums.
That's awesome.
How bad is that? How big is your name in Hollywood? I can't get a copy of Chopper Chick's Lloyd Kaufman. You know who I am? No. Yeah. Me neither.
Wow.
All right, kids.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
No problem. Appreciate it, both of you.
Yeah, you have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.